Shalom, everybody. Welcome back to the Baal HaSulam's Matan Torah with commentary by Rebbe Avraham Morechai Gottlieb. We are in section 32, or lesson 32. We're in the questions for review at the end of this section on page 132. Towards the end of the page, we are done with this main section of Matan Torah and Ha'arvut, meaning the mutual guarantee. But, B'ezrat Hashem, God willing, with the Creator's help, we'll continue into the other two essays that actually precede these two that we're just finishing to learn. But forgive me for the strange order, but that's how we figured was the best way to go about it. So, first question for review. Why are we accountable for the sins of others? See section 17. We're guarantors for each other. That is the notion of a mutual guarantee, ha'arvut. Because we accepted the Torah under the condition that the goal we're reaching for is v'ahavta l're'echa kamocha. We accepted the Torah with the connected consciousness of being like one man with one heart, as the commentator Rashi says, because in truth we are all one soul. Which leads into the answer for other questions as well, but particularly, why are we accountable for the sins of others? Is that because I'm supposed to love my neighbor, my friend, as myself, and because that individual is a reflection of me and a piece of me, as we're all pieces of each other in a grand poetic way. So we're accountable. And the truth is also the notion of merits versus demerits, being, if we elevate the entire world via our mitzvahs and good deeds, so too the opposite is understood as well. Meaning that if we veer away from the goal of serving the Creator and doing it to at least attempt to get to the higher nature of giving, then those sins or averos, from the language of avar, of passing over or veering, because a sin in essence is meaning to say that we are veering from the straight path, from the focused intention of being for the sake of the Creator. Hence, Yashar Kel, Yisrael, is straight to God. So this is why we're accountable for the sins of others, because if we shift the world to the side of demerit, then we're also affecting the consciousness of every other individual and bringing them into further negative frequencies, so to speak, and allowing them to have perhaps, if one can say, a higher chance of veering. Some ideas. I would rather speak it outside than read every section individually again. So, for full review, see section 17. Second question. What was the mutual guarantee that the nation of Israel accepted before the giving of the Torah? We said, Nase v'nishma. We will do and we will hear. Meaning to say, we want to achieve v'ahavta l're'echa kamocha, to love the other as oneself. But first and foremost, we're going to do the work. the experience and the understanding of what we're doing and why we're doing it exactly, we have the faith, we have the emunah that it'll be revealed to us. And even if it isn't, in the meantime, we're going to do the work because it's the right thing to do. And that's the covenant between the Jewish people and the Creator. Hence, Nase v'nishma, which we've spoken about before, also hinting to different levels of our spiritual consciousness, being that Nase is from the language of Asiya, from Aseh, from doing. Therefore, it is correlating to the lowest sphera, which is the most tangible one, which has more of a connection to this physical world as we know it, being Malchut. And Nishma, we will do and we will hear. Hearing is the level of Bina, because there's many, many, many parameters in the Chokhmat Emet, the wisdom of truth, being the Kabbalah. And one of the parameters is splitting up the 5 general levels of the Sfirot and our being to the actual partsuf, to the face, being Keter, the crown, is like the temple area, the skull, forehead as well. The eyes are to Chokhmah, the ears are to Bina, the nose is to Tiferet, and the mouth is to Malchut. So the notion of hearing is a coded language, meaning to hint to the level of Bina. And the level of Bina is the level of giving to give. It's the level of being a tzaddik, of a righteous person. The lowest level, Malchut, in the parameter of receiving and giving, is receiving in order to receive. I don't believe Klal Yisrael was at that level in totality at Matan Torah, but for us, at least I'm speaking for myself as an individual, to also accept the Torah upon myself every day and say to myself, Nasi v'nishma, that I will do and then I will hear. First and foremost, I'm going to do the work because I'm a soldier of the Creator. And I have a mission, I have a job. And I need to do it because I'm on time. I'm being paid by the actual opportunity to live. So it's meaning to say that this notion of receiving will also be elevated, because Bina and Malchut have an intimate relationship, being like mother to daughter, Bina to Malchut. So we raise ourselves as the daughter of the Creator, so to speak, because we're the receiving end. We're a vessel, so we are also called like a daughter in that parameter. And the daughter will also grow up and be like her all-giving mother, if we can use that metaphor, and be giving to give. So this was the mutual guarantee the nation of Israel accepted. Because without saying Nasi v'nishma, and without saying that we're going to accept this with one man with one heart, we could not receive the Torah. That was the condition necessary to receive the Torah. Question 3. Why are we responsible for the whole world? This is from section 19. Related to the first question's answer, as I referenced the notion of merit and demerit, how we can elevate the entire world and also the opposite. So under the notion that we are all just one soul, the Jewish people in particular need to actualize V'ahavta kamocha first and foremost. We are the chosen people, in simple words, meaning to say that we were chosen for the mission of being the first to achieve the elevated levels of spiritual consciousness as individuals and then as a community. And if we could express these amazing levels as a community, then we'll inspire the world to do the same and to look to us for the guidance that we are intrinsically so capable of providing, assuming we are at a certain level of correction. And that's why we're responsible for the whole world, because we are the nucleus. It says, bitter teaching for many to hear, in the Tikkunia Zohar, Tikkun Lamed. I'm paraphrasing here, but it says that all the suffering, wars, disease, plague, and the like in the world is due to the Jewish people's negligence of the inner part of the Torah. We are supposed to fulfill the mission of being a light unto the nations. First and foremost, a light unto the inner nations. And if we can correct the inner nations, being the inner desire to receive in all of its aspects, then we'll see that manifest in the physical reality. Any action by the nations is in essence teaching us of what is happening within. And it's hard to decipher what does an inner this nation or that nation mean for me and my inner work and my avodas Hashem. Those can be difficult questions, and that's why it's best to defer to a leader, spiritual mentor, master. But God willing, we'll be able to actualize, hopefully sooner than later, the Yehudah Kamocha as a Jewish people and the state of Israel, and therefore teach the world, slowly but surely, the notions of the Creator and His goodness, and how they can also form such societies. At least that is the vision of the Baal HaSulam. The Baal HaSulam, undoubtedly by our tradition, was at the level of a Navi. It was the level of a prophet. He spoke to the Creator, and he has diary entries of his experiences. In contrast to the great prophets of the Tanakh, who are prophets for all generations to come, they had a different mission in terms of putting out such messages and relationship that they had with the Creator, as he explicitly told them to share the nevuah, to share the prophecies. The prophecies of the Baal HaSulam, at least those that have been documented. Who can imagine the ones that were not? The Creator didn't say anything regarding putting it out there. They were personal diary entries that we understand he wanted to be burned at the end of his life, like many great masters burn lots of their works and their writings when they pass away, so they wouldn't be misused. But somehow, some way, it got out. Someone took it somehow, some way, and we have such literature. It's amazing to contemplate. I say this because the Rebbe Shita has talked about this recently with the geopolitical events going on in the world. And it's important to know that the Baal HaSulam says, if we don't fix ourselves, if we don't fix our heart and do the work, then there will be a third world war and even a fourth one. Assuming the third one doesn't do the job and wakes up humanity to finally do the inner work and come to attempt to love the other as oneself and throw the ego to the curbside. So to ask ourselves what we're seeing in the world, how is that reflected within me? It's a tough question. And again, to defer to a spiritual master would be best. Question 4. What is the implication of the verse, all the earth is mine, regarding all the people of the earth? See section 28. All people belong to the Creator. We're all Tzelem Elokim. We're all made in the image of the Creator. Again, as we just mentioned, the Jewish people have the particular role and mission to correct themselves and live a perfected society, and to teach that to the nations. But all the earth is mine is meaning to say that every person on the planet, all people who came, are here, and will come, somehow, some way, by the spiritual mechanisms the Creator placed into the creation, will reach dveikut. They'll reach adhesion with Him, oneness with Him. It's not something just for Jews and everyone else is lower. God forbid. There's different roles and different values based on the mission, but everyone is destined for an infinite, incomprehensible connection with the Creator. My take on all the earth is mine is also perhaps hinting to the notion of Eretz and Hadama, being land and earth, which in Hebrew are from the languages of Ratzon for Eretz, will or desire, and Adama being Dome, similar to, as the pasuk says in Sheahu, Adam Elyon. The name Adam also is to express that idea, as he was made in the image of the Creator. It's also hinted to in this pasuk being Adam Elyon, similar to the Most High. So for the Creator to say all the earth is mine is meaning to say every desire is from Him. The desire to receive doesn't exist within Him, God forbid. He is totally and utterly the desire to give. We are the novelty. We're the creation. We're the newly created being, meaning we're something that did not exist within Him, so to speak, and that is the desire to receive. A lack, a chisaron. There's no chisaron or lack in the Creator. But for Him to say all the earth is mine is also to express that it's His creation. So it's still under His domain. It might not be within Him in character or quality, but the desire to receive is still His creation. So at the end of time, when all the vessels to receive are corrected, and they will be able to receive in order to give, and will become holy, that is what I think also all the earth is mine is hinting to. Because all the earth, all the artzot, all the ratzonot, all the desires are His. Because even the desire to receive has implanted within it the kernel that is the soul, being the desire to give, to elevate it to the status of being Adam Elyon, similar to the Most High. I'm going to see if there's any comments or questions in the meantime on the live stream. It's good to continue. Question 5. What harm is caused by someone doing whatever he or she wants without bothering anyone else? Note 886. We are all one. We're all pieces of a puzzle. So if I blemish myself, then I'm blemishing the entire puzzle. Or the metaphor, the safer here, was being on a boat. We're on the same boat. And for me to stab a hole at the bottom of the boat and drown others in it, no, this is my section of the boat. This is my Dalet Amos. This is my 4x4 section. But we're all in it together. but without bothering anyone else. Okay, so what if I'm not in the same boat? You got your boat, I got my boat. You can sink your boat. But that's the idea, is that we're all spiritually integrated and interconnected. So even when someone is sitting silently in isolation and is doing something that is veering away from being Yashar Kale, straight to the Creator, or even if they're simply having breakfast and they don't say any blessings to the Creator, which the Chazal say is like stealing. And that's in any context of eating or drinking, consuming any type of pleasure, even smelling nice fragrances from plants and the like. All of these deserve blessings because we need to elevate the action and not just take for ourselves alone. We need to thank the Creator on the spot. And even so, even if someone blesses on the food and just says the words just to say them, it has no intention really. They're just doing it out of rote. And really they just keep eating because it tastes good and they want to receive for themselves. Even such an action, as simple and lowly as it is in relation to great acts of kindness that we can do for the other, that causes harm to the whole world. That's strong language, but that's just the objective nature of reality. The harm can be a tiny seed on a giant scale, but that doesn't mean that it's still being tipped to the side of demerit as opposed to merit. Question 6. In what way are the interpersonal mitzvot and the mitzvot between people and God actually one and the same? See note 98. Anything outside of ourselves is considered to be the other. So relatively speaking, what's outside of myself is people and the Creator. So whether I'm doing something for the Creator that's against my will, let's say for example, it's difficult to wake up in the morning, and I love being in bed, and I love sleeping. But for the sake of the Creator, because of my love for Him, and I know that He has a mission for me, and I should fulfill the mission for His sake, find the strength to get out of bed. Or based on my desire and truth, He gives me the strength to get out of bed. But it's against my desire. My desire initially is to rest. So that's doing something for the other. It's doing something for Him. Relative example. And this parameter, that's the same exact thing as helping an old lady across the street. Because it's outside of me. At the same time, the Creator, by way of the story in the Torah of Avraham Avinu on the third day post-circumcision, at 99 years old, in the midst of receiving prophecy and speaking to the Creator within his consciousness, has the opportunity to feed and give drink to the 3 passing men, which our tradition tells us are angels, which we understand by the inner meaning of the word. Angels are kochot de nefesh. They're strengths or aspects of our inner consciousness and being. But the basic understanding and the basic principle that we can draw out from this is that even if someone is getting a direct revelation with the Creator, better to put the Creator on hold and help a person, help a Ben Adam. And that's the Creator's will, that we give preference to the individual over Him. Why? We get feedback from people. We don't get feedback from the Creator. At the end of davening, Shachar, Mincha, Mariv, there's no way to call the Creator and say, how was that? Were all my prayers accepted? Was this one heard more than the other one? But we can ask the other how we're doing, Can I do more for you? Can I do better? And the like. But different parameters. The strict answer to the question is anything outside of oneself is considered the other. Question 7. What is the true source of loving another person? See note 98. Seeing the godliness within them. Noting that every single person is inspired to do every movement by the Creator. So if someone is taking something personally, or is offended, to pause and to concentrate on the fact that the Creator is inspiring this individual to do X, Y, or Z. So I can, as hard as it is, justify the action because the Creator is just and is working through that person as a messenger, meaning the person is the messenger for the Creator. As the Baal HaSulam teaches, that we should contemplate, meditate, and integrate the notion that there's only two things in existence, Creator and creation. And it's okay to imagine ourselves as being the only thing in creation because the world was created for Adam Harishon, for the first man. And we are all pieces of the first man. So relatively speaking, the world was created just for you and I. But the way to understand it also is to mean everyone outside of myself is just the Creator expressing himself by means of all these different messengers. And he's speaking to me all the time in all these different myriads of ways. But to love the other person is to focus on the fact that they are a godly soul. And the Creator loves them absolutely and infinitely, despite the wrong that they might seem to be doing in our eyes, by our judgment. Excuse me. And I think to this point, it's important to note some teachings by Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. He says that if we can look upon the wicked and see their good traits, because of our collected consciousness, because of the butterfly effect of everything we do, even having thoughts and controlling our thoughts. So he says just the fact that we can judge a wicked person favorably by seeing their good traits, that in itself can be the merit that causes that wicked person to elevate and do tshuva and return to the Creator. Mind-boggling. Who could imagine? It's a freak extreme scenario that just pops into my head right now, but thinking about the times of World War II, if the Jews somehow, some way tried to employ this teaching and saw the good within Hitler, Yamak Shemo, how that may or may not have affected him for him to change his ways and make a 180. It's a fantastical thought, if I could even say that, but it's an idea. Because we're drawing positive energy into the world, we're drawing positive energy into that individual because we are sending such consciousness also towards them. That is what we call in Judaism ayin tov, a good eye. Ayin oran, evil eyes, to not judge a person favorably. So of course the wicked person draws it upon themselves by the wicked actions that they do. And they then go into a cycle of wickedness because others are continuously judging them to be wicked based on their action, which is understandable. It's human. But here we have an opportunity to be above human, to be godly, and to see the soul within them, and to understand that somehow, some way, by a circumstance, they are as possible because they have a godly soul. And if I can pinpoint and see the goodness within them, that in itself, somehow, some way, can help them change their ways. Beautiful teaching, very powerful. Rabbi Nachman also says that if we focus on the good within that wicked individual, that works in essence as an anchor, and we are then unmoved, meaning we can't be affected by them. Understandably, because we're an influence of our surroundings, and we are who our friends are, we are what we eat, and we also eat information and the like. But even in the company of the wicked, if we look at the good within the wicked and focus on the good and not look at the bad, if we have rosy glasses for the wicked, so to speak, their wickedness won't affect us. That positive judgment creates a force field, so to speak, within us. Difficult based on social structures and the general way of the world and how we're raised, and how easy it is to judge others. But we're supposed to put out our hand to the iniquitors. Give the yad to the pashaim. We say it in Tachanun. So a question I've heard asked the Rebbe, as he's referenced this notion of needing to love and give our hands to even the most wicked. People have challenged and said, even the most wicked, even the worst of the worst? Yes, that's what it says. It doesn't say, but the exception is X, Y, and Z. No. Everyone. Because everyone is being inspired to act by the Creator. Even leaders of the nations of the world. The sages tell us, Chazal tell us, that all the leaders of the nations of the world are essentially puppets. They are messengers of the Creator. That's why it says that if the Jewish people don't do tshuva, if they don't return to the true way of the Torah and the mitzvot, in order to come to the state of giving to the other and love the other as yourself, by means of the inner, more importantly, aspect of the Torah as well as the outer, and balance, then the Creator will appoint a wicked king, more wicked than Haman, in the story of Megillas Esther, in order to inspire us to tshuva. So whether we choose it ourselves and do the inner work and get to our desired goal, or we are forced to by the fire lit beneath us and the gun pointed at our head, so to speak, at least in this generation, to make the necessary changes. Question 8. Why didn't the afflictions of other nations also affect them so as to bring them to a state of fulfilling the Torah? See note 103. We have different DNA. And all DNA, like all things in physical reality, come from spiritual roots. The spiritual roots and the spiritual DNA of the Jewish people have provided us more conducive growth in times of suffering. So if you put the Jewish nation and any other nation in the same field, if that field experiences suffering, to continue with this example, then the plant that is the Jewish people will grow more than the other plant. Why? Because of the merit of our forefathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov Avinu, and their greatness, and us sharing their blood, and the merit of their righteousness, as well as the merit of the pain and suffering physically, mentally, spiritually during the servitude in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. These two together have formed impressions within our consciousness and DNA that allow us to grow more in times of suffering. The truth is, it's also the case for the nations of the world, just to a very small degree in relation to the Jewish people. So it could be, in theory, if one was to do the math, so to speak, of how much suffering the nations of the world would have to endure in order to come to the state of refinement to be able to receive the Torah. I don't know. Maybe it would take thousands or tens of thousands of years, millions. I have no idea. In contrast to the Jewish people's history from Avraham Avinu till the receiving the Torah. Interesting notion. But this is why. It's the merit of the Avos and our servitude in Mitzrayim. Two main variables to the impressions that are still within us, that allow us to grow from suffering. And the final question, what is the danger in revealing the delight in cleaving to God? See section 29. If one receives the amazing delight of cleaving to God, they may do their inner work to receive. So in essence, they'll be giving in order to receive. Instead of working above understanding and reaching the level of giving to give, after having tasted such sweet fruits, there is a worry that that individual can spend their entire lives never passing the threshold, because they have the notion of what the sweet fruit is like, the sweet fruit being cleaving to the Creator, similarity form. So that's the concern. That's the danger. And that's why the Creator is hidden from us and reveals himself in our consciousness time and time again, because it's cycles. We have Yeridas and Aliyahs constantly going up and down. We have states of Yom, of day, the sun is shining, the light of the Creator is giving us sweetness in our Torah and our mitzvot. Or it's a time of Laila, time of darkness, where we feel nothing. But it's specifically in the times of darkness, in the times of nothing, that we should be happy. Time of challenges come, a time of darkness. We should be dancing. Because now is the time for true work. It's not true work if everything feels great and we're inspired to do it just because we have such great love. Not to say that's not valuable. Surely it is. But in contrast to every bone in our body fighting us and not wanting to give, that's called work. To go against our initial desire and do the Creator's will. And it should be understood that when we do things above our understanding, we're instantaneously connected to the Creator. It gives us a similarity form. Because what greater action of giving can we do, relatively speaking, than to do something that we deem to be the right thing to do something that we deem to be His desire when we don't get it. Because our logic and our understanding is initially and intrinsically flawed, because it's rooted in us and our egos and our desire to receive. So to throw that to the curbside and say, I'm going above that, I'm using it as a stepping stone, I'm here to serve. Because the Creator is totally and completely above all words and understanding in His essence. When we do something above understanding, because the Creator Himself is beyond all understanding, that gives us a similarity of form. We connect to this higher consciousness of nothingness, of not knowing. So why do I talk about this notion of going above understanding? Because the danger in cleaving to the light is related to the sin of the Eitz Hadas. And when we go above our das, above our understanding, above what we think is the right thing to do, we're rewarded with das. When we deflect the light, we're rewarded with the light. Perfect example would be when the Creator first revealed himself to Moshe Rabbeinu and invited him to take on the role of becoming Rabbeinu of the Jewish people, to become our rabbi. And by our Masorah, by our tradition, he was saying no for a week. In his great humility, he said, I am not the one to take on such a role. And ultimately, the Creator wanted to reveal his face to Moshe, so to speak. Meaning to say, reveal his great light and being to him. And Moshe said no. He deflected it. So in the merit of saying no, it was a yes. And saying, I'm not refined enough, I don't believe that I can take your light. Not for me, at least right now. And then afterwards, seemingly instantaneously, he merited to experience just that. So too in our lives, we should know that there's a danger in revealing these great lights that are accessible, but at the same time, in relation to the idea of tzir v'dimyon, of using our imagination and mental imagery, meditation, and the like, as the Rebbe Shita has talked about it a lot in recent times, the great importance that it has. If we experience a great delight, if we have spiritual experiences that are lofty in nature, it's important to anchor ourselves and hone in on the fact that what we're experiencing is essentially klipa. If I'm real with myself and say that I am not a tzaddik, I'm not a righteous person, I'd like to be, but I'm not there yet. I'm just not at that level. I'm working on myself. So if I sit and meditate and close my eyes, as the Baal Shem Tov says, we are where our thoughts are. And neuroscientists tell us that the brain doesn't know the difference between a mental image and what's literally right in front of us. So if I imagine, put myself in any place, whether I'm in the heavens, screaming out in praise of the Creator with billions of angels and souls, I'm there. It can be a real experience, not that we can remember or know such things if our soul has done such a thing. But it's powerful. It's very, very powerful tools for us to connect. At the same time, it can be a danger relative to revealing a great light. But the Rebbe Shita says, don't worry. Just be aware. Be aware that if one is doing such things, which is very valuable because it regulates us to think about the Creator. So even if we're experiencing great lights, to acknowledge to ourselves, this is klipa. But I have to experience it. I have to experience it to become aware of myself, and slowly but surely work up and develop myself. And it could be a slightly separate matter from the great light that is actual devekut, of cleaving to God. But I think the principle of the awareness of self, if such things or experiences come to us, is very important. Tov, that is the end of Ha'arvut. Thank you so much for for keeping up with the lessons and learning with me. I believe the next section will be the time to act, which is normally the initial essay, which opens up why the Baal HaSulam was so adamant and so strong on spreading this information and opening up the Kabbalah for the masses. He explains why. But we jumped into Matan Torah. All good. If it was meant to be. Looking forward. Until next time. Kol Tuv.